Welcome to Us Crazy Christians, where we uncover Christian myths and Bible misinterpretations with common sense Christianity. I'm your host, William E. Smith, and today we're going to talk about idol worship in 2021. Stick around. Some years ago, I was sitting down reading the Bible, and I kept reading how the children of Israel would constantly go into idol worship. God would rescue them from something, save them from something, they'd worship God, then the next thing you know, they turn around and build some idols and start worshiping idols. And they kept doing this all throughout Scripture in different books, different chapters. It was like a phenomenon that never really stood out as much to me as it did at this moment. And I kept noticing, say, even when you go to the book of Judges, they would have it where what would happen is the children of Israel would start worshiping idols, different idols. They would build up different idols and images for all different kind of things, the sun, the moon, everything. Based off of other religions that were around them, other cultures. They just take idols from everywhere and use them according to Scripture. And so all of a sudden they'd be taken into captivity, into slavery. Once that happens, they're crying out to God. It's like they come back to God, they're crying out, God, save us, help us, please. And probably, I would imagine they cried out to the idols first. They realized that didn't work. Asking the idols to help them, they realized it didn't work. Then they go back to God. God, come and rescue us, save us. God rescues them, saves them, brings them out, raises up a judge. All of a sudden, they worship that judge. They get rid of all their idols, all their Asherah poles, all that stuff the Scripture says, but they kind of worship the judge. And as long as the judge is doing well, if he's saying don't serve these idols and they follow whatever the judge says until the judge dies. Once the judge dies, the Scripture says they go back into idol worship. They get more idols, they build them up again, and they start worshiping these idols. All of a sudden, they're taken into captivity again. Slavery happens to them. And all of a sudden, they cry out to the idols. The idols don't rescue them. They cry out to God. God comes down, raises up another judge. They're rescued again. They worship the judge. Again, it was a perpetual habit that the children of Israel had to always worship other gods. And even men of God who represented God, they would rather worship them as opposed to God. Matter of fact, you can see that same situation when the children of Israel were going to the mount and they got the Ten Commandments. God, according to Scripture, wanted to make them all priests to all the world and have a personal, intimate relationship with them. But they said, no, God, you give us laws. You tell us what to say. And they end up worshiping Moses and Aaron and the Ten Commandments. Instead of having that relationship, it seemed like they always found some way to put some kind of idol in between themselves and God. And I remember reading this, and I became irritated and aggravated with the children of Israel. And I mean, just bad thoughts were going through my mind. I started to belittle them in my mind. I'm ashamed to say, I'm just being honest with you. And I was like, these fools is crazy. I mean, how many times does God gotta rescue you before you can realize He is your salvation? He's the one rescuing you. Why do you keep going to get other idols? Why do you keep worshiping other stuff? I'm looking at them like they got a mental issue. And in the middle, at the height of my anger, at the height of me being upset, to the point I'm walking away from the Bible and pacing back and forth, I felt like I heard God say to me, William, y'all still do the same thing the children of Israel did back then. And that caught me off guard because I'm thinking, we don't. Matter of fact, He not only said that y'all still do, He said you still do. And I was shocked by this. What do you mean, God? I've never built an idol. I barely wear a cross around my neck. What kind of idols do I make? What do I worship? What are you talking about? I'm always in my Bible. I'm always praying. That's all I do. And He said, you and a lot of my children do it on a regular basis. You worship your cars, your homes, your mates, your reputation, even the Bible. All of these different things people have placed in between themselves and me. And that shook my world. That was a revelation to me. It was embarrassing, especially in the mindset I was in. I almost felt like God set me up. He allowed me to get to this ultimate level of being pissed and angry at the children of Israel as I'm reading them in Scripture, to just say, you do the same thing, William. And so do a lot of my children. So that's something I want you to think about. What idols are we placing in front of God? What idols are we serving? Are we worshiping? Are we kneeling at the altar of instead of God? We say we worship God just like I did. God couldn't even tell me that I worship other idols. I thought he was crazy. So I know me telling you that probably makes no sense. But examine it for yourself. Really think about it. Does our fame, popularity, does a woman, does a man, people, situations, our job, our careers, our goals, our dreams, what is the most important thing in our life? What do we really worship? And one key thing he said was the Bible, and that really caught me off guard. Now I understand totally now, but at that time it was like, what do you mean? But that a lot of Christians worship the Bible more than they do Jesus Christ, more than they do God. And I'm gonna do a separate video on that. But I want to do a part 2. I'm gonna end it right here. I want to talk about the different things that we worship. And one thing he pointed to me, he talked about family, and he said, William, you worship people who wound you. And I don't want to take this video to talk about it. I'm gonna do a part 2 of idol worship. And we're gonna look into that, what God showed me about myself, and hopefully it can bless you as well. So let's work on our idol worships. Let's work on the things that we may be worshiping that are putting wedges in between our relationship with God. Things that we place there. Every time the children of Israel had an idol, it was their choice. They chose to put that idol in that place of God in their life. They chose to kneel and worship at that idol. And we might be doing the exact same thing today. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're a returning guest and haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? It's free. Plus, hit the notifications bell to be notified every time we post a new video. Thanks for watching us Crazy Christians. Until next time, be blessed.